Many times we hear that crises are opportunities, but to understand this, it's necessary to change the focus of how we see the context. This way, we can notice the ways that allow us to undertake what we think of as the new and what we want to manifest in our universe. The book from author Christian Franchini, Creativity in Times of Pandemic, available on Amazon, provides readers with 11 keys to develop your creative potential. Keys that you can implement in your daily life and discover a new universe of possibilities that will propel you towards the singularity of being. Since we can understand creativity as a key to a new state of consciousness that connects us with infinite alternatives, this requires reformulating the old patterns of information and beliefs to enhance the creative process in all its dimensions. This must-read book is a great gift for anyone who wants to manifest a new beginning in their life. Order your copy right now on Amazon. Creativity in Times of Pandemic from author Christian Franchini.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure that you follow and subscribe on whatever platform you are listening to us on. Well, we got a lot to talk about on the program today. I do want to give some updates coming up on our listener, Sarah, who's been in the hospital. We'll give you an update on that in just a little bit. And we got a lot more to talk about as well. All right, a lot going on. Okay. CNN has lost their minds. They have lost their minds. Jake Tapper on CNN, you're going to hear it here in just a moment. They're claiming that President Trump is anti-Semitic. And
with his Jewish grandchildren.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, Ivanka is Jewish.
It's ridiculous.
There was President Kennedy had Bobby Kennedy, right? Donald Trump's Bobby Kennedy was Jared Kushner, who's Jewish. His daughter, that he loves very much, Ivanka, is Jewish. His grandchildren Jewish, and of course, he is the one who moved the embassy, the U.S. embassy, to Jerusalem, the capital of Israel. And to call him anti-Semitic is just it is just dumb. It's just dumb. It makes no sense whatsoever.
You know what it is? It's pathetic and it's desperate.
Desperate. Desperate's a good way to.
Yeah.
Desperate's a good way to.
Yeah, because they're running at. They're throwing everything at this guy. Nothing has worked. Nothing is sticking. And they've hurled every insult they possibly can at him, and they're just like going down the list. So, what is his reason?
Well, let me play this. Now, this is Jake Tapper, and he's going to make this claim about President Trump. We'll play that, and then I have President Trump's actual words too. So we'll get to that. But first, let's hear. This is Jake Tapper, CNN, calling Trump an anti-Semite, the man who moved the U.S. embassy to the capital of Israel, which the left and the media did not want to do. And the thing about the embassy, right? Our embassy was in Tel Aviv. He moved it to Jerusalem. Not having the U.S. embassy in the capital is like saying that we don't recognize your capital. That would be like if Israel, right? If Israel or any other country had their embassy to the United States was in Cleveland, and they're saying, you know what? Washington, D.C. is on former Indian territory. We recognize that Washington, D.C. is occupying Indian territory. So we're going to have our embassy not in your capital, but we're going to have it in Cleveland, which probably was Indian territory too. But that's just an absurdity. To not support having the Israeli embassy in the capital of Israel is anti-Semitic. But anyway, this is and Trump.
Well, CNN has their own problems. I think there's a lot of projection going on.
They need to get away from
They have a lot of issues with their producers,
They
apparently.
sure do, and they may have a cell over there of that.
It's obvious they do.
But, the thing about the embassy, even after Trump, he went up against the media. He went up against the Democrats. In fact, even George W. Bush, I'm going to move the embassy. He never did it.
Yep.
Trump
they all wanted him to, and he's the only one who did it.
And then when they came to Trump and they said, well, we got a scheme. We'll give him these plans. It's going to take 10 years to build it. so it'll never get happen. He said no, and they found some existing building and made it the embassy.
Yep.
So they tried to find some conniving way through a construction project to stop it from happening. So anyway, here's Jake Tapper. It's so absurd.
President Trump using, according to the Anti-Defamation League, quote, classic anti-Semitic stereotypes about Israeli and Jewish control of Congress and the press, unquote. In an interview with Israeli journalist Barak Ravid, Trump claimed, falsely, that Jewish Americans do not like or care about Israel, and he spouted off a number of other rather ignorant remarks about Jews.
Okay, so Jake Tapper, the defender of the Jews.
Meanwhile, all these liberals don't they love like the Palestinians and always side with them?
Well, let's get
when it comes to the Jewish-Palestinian conflict. Okay, give me a break.
So I have the audio of President Trump in this interview making the comments that Jake Tapper's talking about. Yeah. So when you hear this, try to find any anti-Semitism. I don't hear it. Here's President Trump.
People in this country that are Jewish no longer love Israel. I'll tell you, the evangelical Christians love Israel more than the Jews in this country. It used to be that Israel had absolute power over Congress, and today I think it's the exact opposite. You look at the New York Times hates Israel, hates them, and they're Jewish people that run the New York Times.
Yeah, and what he's saying
is spot on with what he's saying.
What he's talking about are liberals who are Jews.
If you talk to any Orthodox Jew, and Brian and I know quite a few, including some of my doctors, they will tell you the exact same thing that Donald Trump said, that the American Jews do not care about Israel.
Liberals.
The liberal American Jews do not care about Israel at all. They care about being the Democratic Party over their own religion and their own homeland. I've heard many, many conservative Jewish people say that. That is not a new thing.
And what Trump is talking about, the New York Times and everyone he listed were the ones telling him not to move the U.S. Embassy to the capital of Israel.
Yeah, and they're the ones always siding with Talib and all these other people when it comes to that Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I mean, give me a break.
So Trump was right on the money. So now that clip of
a lot of their bosses are Jewish.
So that clip that he played, that I just played of Trump, Tapper played that too, and then he came back. He had a guest, and they reacted to it. So this is Jake Tapper and his guest reacting to the clip of President Trump.
Oh, a lot to dive into there. I mean, that's like 4 or 5 anti-Semitic tropes in 40 seconds.
Whatever.
A new record, perhaps.
Well, okay.
They're pathetic.
Okay. Now, of course, President Trump is not anti-Semitic. Nothing anti-Semitic was said in that. And he has a record that proves that it's not true as well. But
I'm sorry if the truth upsets, they're always looking for something to get on Trump. And the truth, just because it might be offensive to some people, it's still the truth.
Liberals do not support Israel.
The truth.
He's talking about liberals.
Liberals do not support Israel. That is obvious. And most Democrats, like I've said, side with the Palestinians, with the Palestinian-Israeli conflict.
Always.
That's proof of it right there. And like I've said, I've talked to many right-wing, conservative, Orthodox Jews that I've known personally that have said the exact same thing. And it's extremely frustrating. In fact, my one doctor is an Orthodox Jew, and he's a very nice guy. He loves Trump. And we talk about it all the time. And he says it is so frustrating that the Jewish people in this country have abandoned their homeland. He said they do not love it, and they side with the wrong side, and this same thing Trump's saying.
Yeah, and this comment of Jake Tapper, which is so absurd. This is, Trump derangement syndrome is hatred. They have a hatred for President Trump, and the worst emotion is hate. And when you're consumed with hatred is like being intoxicated. You don't think clearly.
Well, CNN is imploding. They're having problems.
You lose your inhibitions when you're consumed with hate, and
you can't see clearly.
Yeah, and when you hate someone, or nothing they do is right. Everything they do is wrong. And it really shows you the panic that CNN is in over the fact that Trump is more popular than ever.
Well, CNN's under a lot of stress. Okay, they have this issue going on with their producers.
Yes,
they had the issue with Cuomo. They're having the issue now with their company is being taken over and merging, and they might all lose their freaking jobs any day now, which hopefully will happen. They're under a lot of stress, these people, and plus their ratings are in the toilet. So I'm sure Jake Tapper is having a lot of sleepless nights. And worried about his future and this and that, and worried about the company and what's happening. And I'm sure there's a lot of infighting And it cannot be a fun place to be, especially now. I'm sure it wasn't before, but there's got to be a lot of problems there and people on high anxiety. So they're going to channel those feelings into something. And of course, it's going to go to Trump because that's what they've always done. He's their whipping boy. And that's what they're doing now. So this is, like I said, it's a desperate, pathetic attempt. Nobody believes it. It's absolutely ridiculous. What he's saying is the truth, and everybody knows it. And, whatever.
Well,
nice try.
Okay, so let's leave CNN and move to MSNBC.
Oh.
Okay, now
Another fun group.
Yeah, Chris Hayes, he's their nighttime guy their primetime nighttime guy. He's up against he's up against Tucker Carlson.
Yes,
I
the
believe.
soy boy, I call him.
Yeah, on MSNBC. And when Chris Hayes first started at CNBC is when CNBC was going overboard on all their green stuff,
Oh, yeah.
And what's the guy that does the sports that dyes his hair? It looks like shoe polish black. He's been on NBC forever and ever.
Bob Costas.
Yeah, Bob Costas. I remember once during their Green Week, he was doing his show in the television studio by candlelight. It looked like the police video with all the candles. It was so ridiculous. But anyway, Chris Hayes, when he first started full time at MSNBC, he was on during the day, and they were into their green stuff, and they used to run this promo of him. He rode his bike, they said, to work every day. Mm-hmm. And this guy is as pasty white as you can possibly be.
He probably pulled a Pete Buttigieg. He probably had his significant other or one of his friends drop him off like 2 blocks from work.
Yeah.
And then pull the bike, or he probably parked his own car in a parking garage 2 blocks away. And then came out and I'm telling you,
if he rode his bike to MSNBC every day, even in New York, he wouldn't be this white. He'd have his sun.
He'd have some sun at least on his face.
Exactly. Like I have a tan, but I don't go to the beach or anything.
Brian has a farmer tan.
Yeah, that's correct. Because just living in Florida, you get a tan.
You get a farmer tan,
yeah,
and his feet will be white, but then from the ankle up, you're
exactly,
all tan. That's how it is in Florida.
Exactly, and
just from walking to the car.
Now, Chris Hayes, there's no way he was riding his bike to work every day. No, I'm sure he did it. The day of the promo, he rode the bike in the areas they show. But anyway, he's going after Fox News. Now, Fox News has been covering a lot of these smash and grab robberies that are going on around the country. And they're pretty frightening. And you've seen these on television. And the stores, this was an interesting thing. Some of the stores early on, they were high-end purses. And I thought it was interesting that they weren't chained down and they could just pick them up. And the reason that is, I came to learn, is they're not securing the purses. They expect to get robbed. It's a security measure so that the robbers get what they want and get out. If they're chained down, it could escalate things because somebody's got to get a key and then they get impatient and then somebody could get shot, and it's dangerous for the employees and the customers. That's why they're not chained down. But anyway, Chris Hayes says these smash and grabs are only being covered by Fox News because, of course, Fox News is racist. So listen to this. This is Chris Hayes, MSNBC.
One of the big themes of right-wing media, and indeed a lot of media, local news as well, this year has been the narrative that America is awash in crime. Now, it's not totally detached from some real statistics that are quite unnerving. Murders jumped by nearly 30%, the largest single-year increase in 2020. That's last year. The evidence we have so far points to homicides continuing to rise in 2021. So that's real and really bad. On top of the actual story of a genuine increase in interpersonal violence in America amidst this pandemic and its disruptions and dislocations.
There's an increase in crime and violence because of COVID. Everybody blames everything on COVID.
Yeah, that's going to be going on for a long time.
You go, no matter what you do, if you go to a store and you're in line for a long time, well, COVID. If you call customer service, you're on hold an unusually long time. They say due to COVID, we have long wait times. Everybody blames everything on COVID.
Right-wing media is constantly peddling what is, I think, a completely propagandistic story specifically about out-of-control retail theft. Tim, I think there's something interesting happening here because I think that conservative media understands the power of those images, A. B, it's also the case that, there's the rise in homicides is a very real thing and an extremely upsetting thing that policymakers have to deal with and are grappling with in different ways in cities from Philadelphia to Atlanta to Buffalo to New York. But there is nothing that Fox loves more than surveillance footage of particularly black people stealing a thing. And they will run that 24/7 if they can.
Okay, now this is an interesting thing. Okay, this shows
stupid.
This shows you there's a phrase you haven't heard this in a while, but the bigotry of the left.
Yeah.
Okay, it's very interesting how Chris Hayes, the people that are robbing these stores are masked, they're fully clothed. The video is very poor. You have a very difficult time determining. I've seen a lot of these on Fox, determining the skin color of the criminals.
Yeah, you do.
But Chris Hayes, liberal Chris Hayes, with his bleeding heart, he's a social justice warrior over there. He assumes that these smash and grabs nationwide are being done by African Americans. Yeah. But Fox News is the racist? Exactly. It sounds like Chris Hayes is the racist.
He sounds like a typical liberal, just a typical liberal.
Social justice warrior, snowflake, millennial liberal.
Yeah.
Listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there's a lot more to talk about. Do not go anywhere. We've only just begun. My name's Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Back after this.
From author Shireen Gomes comes the book, My Friend Till the End, available on Amazon. Trees play such an important role in our lives, especially the lives of kids. They climb them, rest under them for shade, build tree houses in them. They're a big part of childhood. My Friend Till the End will bring back nice memories of your childhood. Families will feel appreciation and love for nature, expressed in this story about a boy who finds a best friend in an old oak tree. Lessons are learned about ingredients of good friendship and the joys it can bring in life. This must-read book encourages goodness and thoughtfulness throughout its pages. It's a book worth sharing with all ages. My Friend Till the End, from author Shireen Gomes. Order your copy right now on Amazon. From author Ozark Mark comes your next must-read book, Letters from St. Nicholas, available on Amazon. Letters from St. Nicholas is an inspiring tale which tells the story of Nicholas Gunderson, a pastor who loses his way and finds redemption through a spiritual awakening at a Salvation Army Center in Chicago, as well as purpose through participation in the St. Nicholas Society. Through the society, Nicholas receives a placement as a pastor at a church in Southwest Missouri, through which he writes Christmas letters from St. Nicholas to individuals he knows that are dealing with different struggles, making an impact on their lives. Letters from St. Nicholas is a story of hope and redemption with second chances for people who have fallen. Readers will enjoy this story of tragedy and triumph to be reminded of the true meaning of Christmas, the gift of our Lord Jesus Christ. Letters from St. Nicholas from author Ozark Mark is available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback. Order your copy right now. Many times we hear that crises are opportunities, but to understand this, it's necessary to change the focus of how we see the context. This way, we can notice the ways that allow us to undertake what we think of as the new and what we want to manifest in our universe. The book from author Christian Franchini, Creativity in Times of Pandemic, available on Amazon, provides readers with 11 keys to develop your creative potential. Keys that you can implement in your daily life and discover a new universe of possibilities that will propel you towards the singularity of being. Since we can understand creativity as a key to a new state of consciousness that connects us with infinite alternatives, this requires reformulating the old patterns of information and beliefs to enhance the creative process in all its dimensions. This must-read book is a great gift for anyone who wants to manifest a new beginning in their life. Order your copy right now on Amazon. Creativity in Times of Pandemic, from author Christian Franchini.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. So I want to give an update on Sarah. Now, a lot of you know Sarah. She's a very long time and loyal listener of this program. She's been in the hospital for over a month now with COVID. She went with us on our last cruise, listener cruise, and she was on a ventilator for a long time. And we found out yesterday she has now been taken off the ventilator. She is breathing on her own. which is very, very good.
Very good news.
Yeah, that's
I'm sure
very
she
good.
has still a long road of recovery. And a lot of people who do recover have to go to rehab for a while. And some people have issues for a while. I know people that have had it, and even a year later, they still have some issues with it. It can wreak a lot of havoc on your body. But hopefully, she's a tough lady. And hopefully she'll recover quickly. But it's very good news. She's breathing on her own. That's
for sure.
Huge. She made it through. She's in the hospital. I'm glad she finally went and got treated. And she's made it through. And looking forward to hearing from her. Because I haven't really heard from her in like a month.
No, she can't speak. The thing about the ventilator was really scary because you hear terrible things about people going on ventilators. And then a doctor that we know told us actually it was over 80% of people who go on a ventilator do get off the ventilator.
80 to 90%.
Yeah, and I didn't realize
and the average is 3 weeks, which is what she was on one. But I've heard from people that have been on up to 6 weeks on ventilators that did come off. It's, thank goodness we have modern technology, because it would be like the Spanish flu epidemic in 1918 or whatever that killed like 500 million people.
And, Sarah is one of the most well-networked people I've ever known in my life. And I think her family are blown away. They're just in shock at how many people are out there praying for Sarah.
Yep, prayers work.
Don't stop, though. She's still in the hospital.
And we know other people now. I'm not going to say who, but we have heard from many, many listeners.
Oh, this week.
That have tested for COVID from the holidays, from Christmas. So keep them in your prayers. We've heard from a ton through our Marco group, and also through emails and text messages, and just people letting us know. A lot of people and their family members have contracted it now, and so far everybody's okay. They're not feeling well, but we'll see. Hopefully everything will get through it. But keep them in your prayers as well. That everybody recovers.
This is a strange thing. Okay, last year during the height of the pandemic, we knew just a couple people that had COVID, just a couple.
Yeah,
and I know more people this week that have tested positive for COVID than I've known in the last year.
Well, there's no real. And I know it's confusing because people are vaccinated and a lot of people have immunity from having it in the past. But last year, there were more lockdowns. There were more restrictions. People did not get together for the holidays. I know we last year did not have anything for the holidays, for Thanksgiving or Christmas. We stayed home and ordered food. This year, we had a very small group over. And we ate outside on the back porch.
Yeah, just our mothers.
And really just the mothers and my mom and her husband and my mother-in-law, and that was it. In fact, my mom wanted me to invite some family members from Canada, and I told her no.
Yeah, they've been traveling.
They'd just gotten in the country. They've all been vaccinated, but I said, no, I just don't feel right having a ton of people in my house right now. And,
you sound like Fauci.
No, it's my personal decision. I'm not telling people what they have to do. I'm just telling you from my personal point of view.
I was talking to someone today at the radio station this morning. I don't think I told you about this, Kathy. I've been so busy today. But there was a family event in their family that they didn't make it to over Christmas, and everyone that was at the event in their family, everyone has tested positive this week
highly
for COVID.
Contagious.
And most of what we're talking about is in Florida, so there is an increase. So keep everyone in your prayers, including Sarah, because she's still in the hospital, and getting off the ventilator, I'm sure, is a very difficult recovery. I want to thank all of our Patreon supporters for your support of the program. Thank you so much for your support. And our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you on each and every episode. So all the names you're about to hear are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, Gary, ETW, Chuck, D, Pamela, Jaclyn, Rick, Rich, and Nick. These are our top Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. And if you would like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a direct link in the episode description. There's a link on my website, briancraigshow.com, and the direct website address is patreon.com/brian Real Brian Craig Show. Patreon.com/Real Brian Craig Show. When you click that link, it'll walk you through and explain everything to you.
Well, I wanted to bring up this thing about Alex Jones. I had sent you that article, and it seems like, I don't know what his motivation is, maybe just to be in the news, but it seems like people are turning on President Trump over what he said in the Candace Owens interview, which I think is ridiculous. And he has said that he is going to, this is his words, not mine. He said that he is going to expose things about Trump, whatever the hell that means. Let me find the article real quick.
Alex Jones is going to expose Trump?
It says here, let me find the article.
That's very troubling.
But he's going to, okay. It says here, this is off of...
So this is an update on him because I know he was attacking Trump earlier this week, but I didn't hear that he was going to expose Trump.
He said Trump was either completely ignorant or one of the most evil men who has ever lived.
That I heard, yes.
He said it was time to move on from Trump and also threatened to dish all the dirt on the former president. Radio host Wayne Allen Root, a staunch Trump supporter, said the former president was right on everything except the vaccines and needed an intervention. In a statement to Reuters, Root stressed he would always be a Trump supporter and that by intervention he simply meant a chance to convince Trump to alter his message. Well, that's not going to happen because he pushed the vaccines. He made them happen. He's not going to change his mind on that.
Hold on. This is...
but Alex Jones, I don't understand him at all.
Here's the thing, and I know Wayne Allen Root. I've had him on the show. I think he's been on the podcast. I know I've had him on the radio, and I got a lot of respect for Wayne Allen Root. I don't know exactly where this is coming from. But what
does Alex Jones mean by dish all the dirt on Trump? What does he know about Trump?
Yeah,
nothing. About as much as Michael Avenatti.
Exactly.
Nothing.
But this is the thing. President Trump has always said it's a personal choice, and he always says, I am against mandates. I'm against mandates.
That's right.
So, this is really upsetting to me about Wayne Allen Root because Wayne Allen Root is not Alex Jones. He's not like a guy trying to go viral and be relevant. He's a credible person, and that's really upsetting and also disappointing to me.
Well, he said he still supports Trump, but he feels that he's misinformed.
Okay.
But he didn't come out and make threats like Jones saying he's going to expose all this dirt on Trump, whatever, which will be made up. Because let me tell you, Alex Jones is not in Trump's inner circle. He never has been. Maybe he wants you to think he is, but he is not in his inner circle. He knows as much about Trump as you or I do. What we see in the news, we probably know more.
This is the thing, okay? The media, the Democrats, and the Republicans have been investigating Trump like no man has ever been investigated before. They even got his taxes up in New York. Yep. They've been through everything, and they have found nothing.
I worry.
So if there was something, like if Alex Jones had,
exactly, he's got nothing.
There is nothing. You would have heard it already. The worst thing they ever came out with about Donald Trump was nothing. That Access Hollywood tape with Billy Bush, that was a nothing thing, and that was the worst thing they ever came up with. Everything else has been bogus. So
what the
Alex Jones it's got nothing.
What the media is going to do, whether it's true or not, and I don't think it's true, but they're going to use this to give the perception that MAGA is divided.
Yeah,
and
which it's not.
And they're going to use these never Trumpers like Alex Jones and Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro to perpetuate that and to manipulate people into thinking that we do not support him. But let me tell you, pretty much everybody that has commented on your YouTube, and I've read other YouTube threads and social media, I would say 95% of the people feel the same way. They're like, look, as long as he doesn't doesn't want mandates, I'm fine. It's his personal opinion. He agrees it's a personal choice, and that's all I need to know. Now, that's what matters.
This new governor in New York, okay, she's out of her mind. Okay, she's just finishing out the term.
Oh yeah, she's a kook.
The new governor of New York that replaced Cuomo, she has declared racism a public health emergency.
Oh God.
She said racism is a public health crisis. She signed an entire package of legislation on December 23rd that we all missed because of Christmas, aimed at addressing discrimination and racial injustice in the state of New York. She says this, For far too long, communities of color in New York have been held back by systemic racism and inequitable treatment. They just elected a black man to be mayor of New York City. So I don't know what she's talking about. She says, I'm proud to sign legislation that addresses the crisis head on, addressing racism, expanding equity, and improving access for all. Well, here's my recommendation. She's a social justice warrior too, right? Her and Chris Hayes over at MSNBC. If she's concerned about systemic racism, what I believe is she should announce immediately that she is not running for governor of New York, and she is going to endorse a person of color to replace her. Like that,
good idea.
Like that low-life attorney general that likes to investigate Trump for life.
Letitia James.
Yeah.
Endorse her, which will not happen.
Yeah.
Of course.
So I stand with the unelected governor of New York. It is time to have a governor of color in New York, and I'm calling on her to announce that she is not running and endorsing someone of color.
Well, Democrats never
governor.
put their money where their mouth is.
One last thing I want to touch on.
I'm just so glad we live in Florida.
I'm doing. I just
Every
want,
day, I'm glad we live here. I tell you,
Ron DeSantis is free Florida. I want to touch on one thing here. A lot of you know this. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I really am. I have been my entire life. When I was younger, I used to go to Star Trek conventions. I've met all the heroes and legends.
Yeah. He hung out with William Shatner a couple times.
Yeah, that's true. I have. And, so Star Trek is something that's important to me. And we talk a lot in this post-Harvey Weinstein era of what's happened to the entertainment world. We were talking about The Matrix the other day, and with the director. They have taken wokeness so far on television and in movies.
They're destroying Hollywood.
That it's unwoke. They're asleep. They've gotten so into diversity that it's no longer diverse. And on the new Star Trek,
it's not realistic.
Yeah, on the new Star Trek show, it's called Star Trek Discovery, which is it's just a travesty that it's even called Star Trek because it doesn't apply. There are no men in this show, except as background characters that are very effeminate and all very emotional and things like this. And they had a meeting. This won't mean a lot to a lot of you people, I know, but it illustrates how the entertainment world, what they're trying to do. They had a meeting of the United Federation of Planets with the president of the Federation, the admirals from Starfleet, and representatives from all the planets. They're all women. There were no male leaders of anything in the future. It was all led by women. There wasn't one man around. The men that are in the background are, like I said, very emotional, hysterical, and wimpy. And, you were telling me this phrase. I've heard it before, but I thought it was a joke. What they're trying to do in Hollywood is do away with what's called toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity. Masculinity. I mean, I don't even know what that means. Why is that toxic?
They've decided it is.
And there's this war against men.
Especially white men.
That's going on. But here's the thing. When you fight for diversity so hard that you get rid of white people from all the shows, men.
And commercials.
White men. You watch commercials. There's hardly a white person in a national television commercial
it's
any longer.
so funny because I have seen so many people tweet about that in the last few months.
Yeah.
And they always say, do you notice any white people in commercials anymore?
None.
It's
very few.
They're going over the top.
And their fight for diversity has led to racial segregation. Everything is being racially and gender segregated by the left in the entertainment world. Yeah.
That's what the left does. They put people in boxes.
Being woke means you're like in a coma at this point. They don't even they don't see it yet.
Because they feel, I've always said this, Democrats have a God complex and they're arrogant. And they feel that they've always been this way, though, that they can change the world, they can change how people think and how people react and this and that. But they're really manipulating people and they're really creating problems. And I tell you, I feel like our generation is really the last normal generation, the Generation X, because it started with millennials and this next generation, our daughter excluded, of course, because Emily has her head on straight. And they're not all like this, but a lot of these kids, the way they're being raised, especially these younger kids now, you see all these teachers on TikTok and on libs of TikTok. It is scary who is teaching the kids.
It's frightening.
And I got to tell you, our daughter's almost 23, but if she was like 10 years old, she'd be going to like a Catholic school she would not be in public school.
Yeah.
She would be at a private school, homeschooled, or at a Catholic school.
We'd have to find a way.
There is no way she would be in public school right now. They are brainwashing your children. There was a teacher on Libs of TikTok. She was wearing all rainbow stuff, and her whole curriculum is centered around her gayness and the importance of teaching her students that she's gay.
Yeah.
And they are not teaching academics anymore. Kids are going to come out of school stupid. They're not teaching them basic academics. They spend that time, and see, this is the Obama and that generation teaching now. And when those kids were in college, in the education department, they started teaching them this kind of ideology that you're an educator and you have to teach your students about this and about that. And it's no longer about academics. It's now about social justice.
Yes.
And that's the thing. So kids are going to come out of school stupid. They're not going to know how to spell. They're not going to know how to do basic math.
Yeah, but they'll be taught. They'll be woke.
But they'll be
woke.
They'll be taught that there's 25 million genders.
Yeah.
They'll be taught that white people are born racist. And so I would seriously think about where your kids are going to school, because let me tell you, they're being brainwashed and manipulated every day, and you're not there to see what's happening.
I don't agree with this abandoning the public schools, because most people, including us, we wouldn't be able to afford that. We'd have to sell our house.
There's charter schools. Go to a charter school. There's other options.
I don't know what's going on in charter schools, but what's going on with teachers today is so understated. If you go on Twitter and go to Libs of TikTok, they regularly post. By the way, that noise, we're broadcasting from outside because I still have a cold, so I'm trying to stay away from Kathy. I don't want to get Kathy sick, so there's a plane flying.
You're almost over it.
Yeah. One thing, what I miss so much about President Trump being in the White House, but when President Trump was in office, we don't live too far from Mar-a-Lago, and sometimes, it happened many, many times, Marine One with President Trump would fly directly over our house.
Pretty cool.
And, oh, man.
So you're saying with teachers it's understated?
Yeah, I miss Marine One flying over with President.
Me too.
But if you go on Libs of TikTok on Twitter, they post videos of teachers in their classrooms.
Scary.
That will just make you physically ill.
Make your hair turn white.
It'll make you physically ill. And I saw today an article that was very interesting.
There's teachers that go in drag now. Guy teachers that go in drag to kindergarten.
Yeah, yeah. I saw an article about this today, which was very encouraging. There are local MAGA people throughout the country that are not only running for school board, they're backing candidates for school board. And everything that happened in Virginia has led to a big, great awakening of parents.
I'm glad they're getting
involved. Who are getting involved in school boards. And it's amazing. Now, listen, we are all out of time for today, but we'll be back next time. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks for listening.
There's a podcast that you will want to add to your playlist, Warriors for Christ. That's the number 4. Warriors for Christ is a Christian podcast providing biblical teaching without the doctrines of man. In other words, they like to let the Bible explain itself. The format includes non-denominational readings and teachings from the Bible. They also have interviews and whatever the Lord puts on their hearts to present. Life in this world can be very stressful and filled with anxieties. Warriors for Christ will give you the biblical information you need to help deal with all life has to bring. Warriors for Christ confronts many false doctrines which are pervasive in this age and what some call the church in a box. And they also offer a full gospel ministry. Find Warriors for Christ on Podomatic, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Player FM, Stitcher, Deezer, Amazon Podcast, and Spotify. Warriors for Christ. Share the podcast on all of your social media so your friends can listen to Warriors for Christ. That's the number 4. Add it to your playlist right now.